So the chain of events is obviously they did this haka. They were going to get dragged in front of the Privileges Committee. They asked for, wasn't it Chris Finlayson to represent them in the Privileges Committee?
Yes.
And then the committee said, no, we're not having that. And then Te Pāti Māori said, okay, well then this is obviously a sham because we're not going to follow tikanga or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like, how can we have a conversation about what we did and why we did it if we're not going to give it its context? So we're not going to participate in this farce. And I think that when you look at that chain of events, that's the conversation that they want to have. And if the full stop on this is like, well, we're just going to fucking throw the book at you guys, an literally unprecedented response, then that says everything that Te Pāti Māori's been saying all along. That we have a white supremacist parliament that has some of the set dressing is Māori, but in ways that it matters, no, we can't have that. If we have a haka in the house, then it's uncivilized. And that just says the quiet bit out loud as far as I'm concerned. You want to have a Westminster Parliament, go to Westminster.
I'm just reading some of this thing. It was Trevor Mallard was involved, I think, but it was actually it was Mallard who threw the punch, and he got demoted for it. So Trevor Mallard, except he is heading for demotion after punching Tohinari. So it was actually Mallard who threw the punch. I can't see too much about a ban from Parliament, though. Now, if that's not a ban from Parliament, like if it's not a stood down for 3 days or whatever, someone can be literally punch someone and they get nothing. I'm going to keep looking because I don't want to be wrong. I'm saying this is what it looks like.
I suppose it's because it didn't happen in the house. Oh, well, I know Privileges covers things that didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a perfect example. David Seymour with his fucking Land Rover stunt. He lied to Parliament about that. He said that he didn't know that it was against the rules, and he was caught on camera saying, well, what are they going to do to me? Drag me in front of Privileges? Like, and then he goes, oh, well, no one told me that I couldn't drive a fucking Land Rover up the Parliament steps, apart from the fact that he was told on camera that he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And there was no punishment.
Nothing
no
at all.
suspended from the house.
All right, I'm going to stop doing live research on YouTube and the internet and start playing the story again.
Now, Lloyd, what is likely to happen tomorrow?
Yes, Sam, well, it could be a complete cluster because every single MP gets a 10-minute speech. There are 123 MPs, so that's what, 20 hours.
Did he just say it's going? Did he just say it's going to be a cluster? So we all have to say "fuck" in our head. That's what.
Correct.
That's the thing.
And that has been done. That's what I.
Okay, very. All right.
Of speeches, let's just say not all of them are going to speak because they won't. Let's say half of them are. That's 10 hours of speeches just to respond to that initial motion. But the Speaker's also allowing people to make amendments, so that's sort of proposed changes. And he's also allowing 10-minute speeches in response to each of those amendments, and that's even if you've already spoken. So you can see that these things drag on and on.
Now that actually feels like Jerry's, he's putting his thumb on. He's putting his thumb on the scale. Because that sounds like to me someone who wants to delay this perhaps for the budget. I mean, is it unfair of me to think that?
No, I think you're exactly right. And I feel like I have to take back every bad thing I said about Jerry Brownlee being Speaker, because this is fucking amazing. Yeah. The 10-minute speeches, the right of reply, and the government has already said to him that they're not happy about that because it will delay the budget. And he's like, well, what could we do about it?
Yeah.
So, yes, he is leaning on the scales. Which again, like I think is fair. It's an unprecedented action from a speaker in response to an unprecedented punishment from the Privileges Committee.
Yep.
So again, this is it all tracks.
Hat tip. And I guess what you'll probably find is National will want to participate in this about that much, 0. So you might not find it's 10 minutes from everyone. It might be 10 minutes from all of the opposition, though. How many of them? There's 55 opposition, so that's 550 minutes. What's that? Six nines of 54. That's 9 hours.
And then the amendments.
and then they make one amendment and they all do it again, and then they make another amendment and they all do it again, and then they make another and they all do it again. Yeah, interesting.
So it's a
actually.
hostage situation.
You don't often see this in New Zealand politics. You do see it in American politics when they filibuster and they talk for 25 hours straight, sort of thing. You know, Cory Booker, wasn't it? I think was it Cory Booker? I got that wrong. I feel like I've got that wrong.
Yep.
It was Booker. But this feels like the New Zealand version of it. Fascinating. Oh, Chewie decided to leave. Let's get back to the story.
On and on. For each amendment, that's another 10 hours. Let's say there's 10 amendments. That's 100 hours. So going to drag on for weeks, possibly even a month, dare I say it.
A month?
And it's especially interesting given the Prime Minister is ruling out making any concessions. Is the National Party open to concessions, though? Otherwise, this could drag on for months. You're not open to concessions?
The Privileges Committee make that decision. They are empowered. We have representatives, as every party does, in the Privileges Committee, and the determination from...
What happens, though, see, this is where it's hard to make an absolute statement. So what happens if they come back and they go, if you make concessions, we'll allow the budget to be read? Because if these are 9 hours, 9 hours, 9 hours, 9 hours, 9 hours, tomorrow's Tuesday. You know, it's not very far from Thursday. What if they have to give them a concession to enable their budget to be read at 2 o'clock on Thursday? You know, what if they're still debating because they won't give any concession? This is actually quite an interesting standoff now. Like, politically speaking for New Zealand, it's going to be quite fascinating to see what happens from here.
From the Privileges Committee, we support.
Okay, Lloyd, so
It's also
no
wrong
concessions
about
from the
that.
government. How will the opposition react to this?
Yeah, well, I understand that the Greens are going to filibuster. They've got 15 MPs, so they're going to use each of those 10-minute speeches, and they may even, you know, table some amendments, and then they'll use 15 speeches after that to respond to each of those amendments. So they are planning to filibuster, is my understanding. Labor, they haven't decided yet. They're going to talk to their caucus tomorrow morning about their plan of action. They want it reduced from 21 days down to either 2 or 3 days in terms of the suspension for the Te Pāti Māori leaders. They think 21 is just far too hard. Its leader, Chris Hipkins, says the government must make concessions because it's actually our democracy that's on the line.
As a country that celebrates its democracy, governments shouldn't use their majority to suspend their opponents for such a prolonged period of time. That isn't the action that I think New Zealanders would expect of their democratic parliament.
So there could be a few spanners as well. We've got Members' Day on Wednesday. It could go into that as well if it's not sorted by tomorrow night, 10 p.m. There's Budget Day on Thursday. It cannot drag on into then, so it may well be delayed until the next sitting week, which is not until June the 3rd. That's when Parliament comes back to be sitting. So this thing could drag out for a long time. And something that's just come through, Sam, is that the Speaker has ordered the public gallery will be closed for all of tomorrow. So members of the public will not be able to come into Parliament to watch this. He has closed it. He hasn't given an explicit reason why, but I think that's pretty obvious.